from 3 losses in a row to 3 wins in a row. SDFC getting back to their game and looking even more dominant than the beginning of the season. Not only are they playing at the very top level, they are almost at the top of the MLS West standings. SDFC faced Colorado Rapids in match day 13 and got some much needed get back after the Rapids beat us in the first meeting. Is SDFC starting lineup finally figured out from front to back? Which San Diego FC players made massive plays to get this win? Is SDFC now a legitimate title contender? So throwing up the starting lineup, I think we've constantly talked about this from the beginning of the season. Who's starting in the lineup? I love Mighton, and Mighton was back and came off injury. So the injury was not very, very serious, but they did take it with precaution, which I absolutely love. Adding Mighton into the right wing means Dreer goes in the center. Obviously, Chucky on the left. We still have the same starting defensive back, which continues to make me happy that we're just solidifying something in the back line so we can gain some consistency on the back. So Willie Bombino as the fullbacks, McVeigh and McNair in the center back positions, and they have looked good. To me, this has to be the preferred starting lineup, and it allows us to gain some consistency from, again, front to back. And we have 3 bona fide attackers. Mighton can run at the defense. Dreer can run at the defense. Chucky can run at the defense. And they can all play off each other with Luca De La Torre adding to the attack, as well as what seems as Godoy, especially this past game. Godoy had a couple shots on goal to add into the attack. So we have a good 5 attackers, if not sometimes a little bit more, which puts tons of pressure on the defense. But what that means is the fullbacks don't have to act so much as wing backs and actually do overlaps, which allows them to play a little bit more defensive. And our defense has been really good over the past 3 games. Looking at the full game stats, you can absolutely see we did what we do. We dominated possession. We absolutely always usually dominate possession. So that's not anything of a surprise. But look at the shots and the shots on goal. The shots, we had 28 shots, and 9 of those shots were on goal. We put tons of pressure on Zach Steffen, which is something I called for in the first game, but didn't feel that happened very much. Colorado only had 9 total shots. 9 total shots. That's how many shots we had on goal. And so it was absolutely awesome to see us dominate, especially in the first 15 minutes. I thought we were on the front foot. I thought we came out with intensity, even though that didn't lead to a goal right away. Also, we probably could have more goals. If you look at the XG expected goals, we were expected to have 4.2 goals. Again, Godoy had a couple great shots on goal. Mighton had a goal, should have been a goal, put a little more pressure on him. It should have been a goal, but a defender cleared it off the back line or a couple feet in front of the back line. But we absolutely dominated. We put the foot on the pedal, and we really didn't take it off throughout much of the game. This is, again, what I really called for in the first game. The first game, I said you need to shut down Georgi Mihailovic. Georgi Mihailovic showed up in that first game. This game, he was quiet. Not only was he quiet, but we'll get to something a little bit later because he missed a penalty kick. And so we did what I wanted us to do in the first game. We absolutely executed this game. Another stat that we have to look at, not up on the board right now, but it's 87% passing accuracy. We controlled the game and we turned that control into scoring opportunities. It's one thing to have good possession. It's one thing to have good passing accuracy, but do you create chances? Again, 28 shots and 9 of those on goal. We absolutely created chances and potentially could have had a bit more. But you know me, stats are only one part of the game. Stats don't tell everything. Does it pass the eye test? What did we see on the field? What did we see as far as movement? Players taking opportunities or missing opportunities, because soccer comes down to opportunities and do you take your chances? And what I can say, we took our chances and we created those chances. And if we look at the first goal, obviously we have to give kudos to McVeigh. McVeigh scored that first goal off of a header, off of a corner kick. But don't forget the little things that happened before that. We had a great corner kick, but Sverdkov had the flick that set up the McVeigh goal. And I'll throw that up there. You can see it was a nice near post run. Sverdkov flicks it, and guess who is on the back post to head that ball home and get it past Zach Steffen? It is McVey. Such a beautiful play, but it's the little things that led up to that as well. And then if we look at Dreer and the second goal, he drove at the defense. He cut inside, took a shot. It hit off the post, but then he followed it up off of a rebound. And it wasn't easy because not only were there some defenders back there to try to block that first shot that went off the post, but he reacted faster than the defenders on that play to get the follow up. And the ball was bouncing off the post, and he completely smashed it home, which is not easy to do. To control a bouncing soccer ball is not easy, but he absolutely smashed it. Great composure. But guess who started that break? Sverdkov did a great left field to right field low pass that sent Dreer on a run. Again, it's those little things that lead to the goal. And you know, when there's space, we are most likely to score. And Dreer had space, and he did a lot of that by himself at the end. And looking back and rewatching this game, you know, you can always look at stats as far as Chucky, as far as Mighton, who didn't really show up on the stat sheet in terms of assists or goals, but they were good this game. Again, I love this front three. They were good this game because they put pressure. They made the defense play them. Again, when you're putting pressure, when you are attacking the defense, it causes problems everywhere else. And that's why I think, you know, Greer gets the goal. That's why I think, you know, McVey gets a goal. That's why we have Godoy getting shots on goal, because there was so much more open space, because you have to be out on Mighton. You have to keep an eye on Chucky. So this is what I want to see. You don't always have to score goals to make a difference. And I don't think that they had bad games. Of course, maybe they didn't have great games because, again, you do always want the goal. You do always want the assist. But the intensity and pressure that led to goals elsewhere was absolutely big. Then we have to go to, you know, he might not be the player of the game, but to me, he was. CJ Dos Santos. CJ Dos Santos has been so solid all year. I think he did have a little rough patch when we had our 3-game losing streak, but the whole team had a rough patch. So I don't think it was just him. And, you know, that happens. You're not going to be perfect throughout the entire season. But CJ Dos Santos this season has been a really great goalkeeper and has to be up there as far as keepers that make a big difference on winning teams, because this game he was an absolute stud. Obviously, we can look at, you know, a few saves that he made, but there's 2 saves I really, really want to highlight. One was at the end of the first half where Chucky turned the ball over. Again, you're not going to be perfect, but Chucky turns the ball over in midfield, and it was a midfield shot by a Colorado Rapids player. And obviously, CJ was out of his box because that's just normal for what goalkeepers do. But CJ Dos Santos had to track back all the way to his goal and tip the ball over the bar from a midfield shot. A couple things stood out to me when I rewatched the game. CJ Dos Santos had to track back, but usually if you track back, you're going to look over your shoulder. Am I going to run into the goal? Am I going to run into the post? CJ Dos Santos did none of that. He kept his eyes locked on the ball the entire time while he booked it back into goal to tip the ball over the bar. That's a couple things that this shows me. Number one, if you're not looking back, you don't care what's behind you. That's kind of fearless, right? You're not worried about running in the post. You're not worried about running into the goal. You're not worried about anything behind you. The most important thing is keeping the eye on the ball. And he absolutely did that. Did not flinch. Big, big play. Another thing is field awareness. He knew where he was on the field, so he didn't have to look back. I think those 2 things are very understated things to look at. He is a good goalkeeper, if not a great goalkeeper. Love watching CJ Dos Santos. And we have to go to one of the biggest plays of the game. Willie had a handball. I don't really blame Willie. Sometimes, you know, the ball comes quickly, but his arm was out. Hey, they gave a PK. We got to deal with it. And guess what? CJ Dos Santos did, because CJ Dos Santos blocked Georgi Mihailovic's penalty kick. And Georgie is a great player. Again, he didn't show up in this game, and I think kudos to the defense, and then obviously kudos to CJ Dos Santos for blocking that goal. Such a big play. What happens if that goal goes in? Is the momentum with Colorado Rapids? It's a 2-1 game. Do they come back to tie the game? And that means we drop points. But he completely took the wind out of the sails of Colorado because he blocked that shot. Such a beast play. Got to give props when props are due. Love what he's doing. But one little detail, Luca Bombino, you have to get props for part of this play as well on the penalty kick save. After CJ Dos Santos saved it, the ball went right to a Colorado Rapids player who could have followed up with a potential goal. Bombino books it back into the box, throws in a slide tackle, which then stops the shot, and then we're able to clear it. Those little things mean so much to me. The intensity, the grit, the resilience to get back in the play, to never give up, and to never expect, oh, CJ Dos Santos saved the penalty kick. It's not going to be a rebound. No, you need to play the play out through its entirety. Great, great play by Luca Bombino, and I really, really want to highlight that play. Such a great game. I think, we absolutely dominated this game. The other team's always going to have chances, but do you stop those chances? And then again, do you take your chances? And what does this mean in the standings? SDFC is now in second place in the Western Conference, only 4 points off the top, which is Vancouver. But Vancouver does have a game in hand. If they win, that's obviously 7 points. But if they don't, we're only 4 points away from the top. And prior to this game against Colorado, the MLS had us ranked number 9th in their power rankings. Number 9th? That is totally insane. Yeah, we hit a rough patch. We lost 3 in a row, but we bounced back with 2 wins prior to these power rankings being put up. And one of those wins was 5-0, an absolutely dominant win, which said, hey, we're back. And not only are we back, we're back with a vengeance. So that is a little bit of disrespect from the MLS to not be considered a top team. And I think SDFC is going to continue to prove that disrespect wrong, because looking at this team, we have to be considered a title contender the way we played. Not only the way we played, but the way we figured it out through a rough patch, which tells me a lot about our grit and resilience. So we don't need the national pundits or teams or other fans from other cities to like us. We don't. They can hate us all they want, but you know what we will force them to do? They're going to respect us. They're going to respect our ballers, and they're going to respect this city, San Diego, as a hardcore soccer city. So I can't wait to continue going through this season, continue to beast this season, and we have some games ahead. We do have a packed schedule. In 1 week's time, we'll be playing 3 games, and our next game is against Sporting Kansas City. They're the 3rd worst team in the Western Conference. They've allowed 24 goals, but they have scored 19. They can score, but we can exploit them with our high octane offense, with our attackers, and we can get goals against this team. But there's going to be some big questions ahead for starting lineups and what Mikey Varis will do to rest certain players because of this packed schedule. 3 games in 1 week is a lot. So who does Mikey Varis sit and who does he play? Who does he start? What are going to be those rotations? Those are going to be the big questions, because I thought he was going to do that against Colorado. He didn't. So I assume he's going to have to do that against Kansas City, especially maybe considering that they're a little bit of a weaker team. So he wanted the full lineup against Colorado, and then maybe he's going to make some substitutions. So we'll have to see that. And I'm really interested in that, because as you improve as a team, your schedule is always going to get more and more packed. So it will be interesting to see what happens. And we're going to need to continue to get these wins, because we're going to journey towards that top of that table. And until next game, I'm Mike Gio with the Penalty Kick Podcast.